and today we are going to continue with our NPV and NPIV, some more major stuff. We would see that we are going to have even MDS number 4 and MDS number 2. Okay, I want to involve every devices now onto the topologies. I'm not sure whether they will be connected or not. Yeah, I'm still connected. And then we do have our JBot that is already connected to our these very set of devices. Today my main motto would be to talk about that what would be the meaning of static pinning. Like yesterday we have seen that on the basis of the uplink interfaces, they have mapped their relative server to the external interfaces. But can we change that very basic rules? And if I change that very basic rule, what kind of problem we can even face? Like you might have seen in the text classes that whenever we go down with our static pinning, we can find out some problems could be there. Like whatever the pin that we have mapped to the uplink interfaces, that is going to be called as specs interfaces. If that interface is unavailable, all the server code will be down. Similarly, the same stuff is going to work out over here also. So now if I'm going to go to our, this is going to be my JBot. Just increase the font size. This is going to be my MDS1. This is going to be my MDS2, MDS3, and then it is going to be our MDS4. This is going to be our internal server, which is already there. And then I do have the connectivity to this server, to our MDS3 and MDS4. These are the two connections which is already there in our devices. MDS3 also has a cross connections to MDS2. It also has a cross connection over here. But I'm not going to see any cross connections between MDS3 and MDS4. We do have our another cross connections between our MDS1 and MDS2. I hope so we are aware about the interfaces. 1/14, 14, 1/1 to 2 to 2. This is going to be 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/1, 1/1. This is going to be 1/10, na? 1/10 over here. Now the config way will be pretty same now again still. Now I'm going to still consider MDS3 and MDS4 as now as what device? NPV switch. And this very set of device I'm going to consider it as our NPIV kind of switch. Now at a time I'm just going to concentrate to this very portion. I'm going to concentrate on to this very portion. Okay, in this very portion MDS3 will still define it to be part of B100. Okay, MDS1 will have two uplinks and MDS2 will have another two uplinks. Now we would find out that if I am going to have a port channels, then how the things is going to work, and if I do have a single link. But before moving to our port channels, let me go down with our just physical interfaces. So from MDS3, I'm going to have around 3 ports that is going to be called as our uplink interfaces. And then relatively, we will see that how this interface, which is supposed to be 1/10, is going to map to what very interfaces. Okay. So because this is going to matter for us, because if the traffic flow is going to one of the another MDS, then it is not going to be acceptable traffic flow. So what I need to have, I need to tell that this is 1/10. Let me start with our MDS number 3, because if I'm going to go on to our MDS3, first thing we need to define password without any doubts. And if I'm going to change it to our NPV mode, what we would find out, it will automatically, it will restart. So I should have done that since earlier only. Let me go to the device. We'll define switch name MDS3, and then we'll define what feature? NPV features. Yes, so automatically it will restart. Meanwhile, we can go to our MDS1 and MDS2. What we can configure? First thing, initialization. We'll define switch name MDS1. We'll define vSAN database, and I'm going to make it as vSAN 100. I'm going to write on vSAN 100 into it, and then I'm going to tell that for which very interface. I'm going to point out interface 1/14 for it. Similarly, I will point out which another interfaces 1/1 and 1/2, because they are going to be also pointed out with the same vSAN. So I'm going to write on 1/1 to 2 also. I'll go to my 1/14, where we will define switch port mode as FL. We'll commit no shutdown. And if I'll go to our FC 1/1 to 2, we'll mention what? Switch mode F, and then I'll define no shutdown. Because downlink we will have NP mode, and on the top we are going to have it as F mode. Same way, we'll move to our MDS2. We'll still define him into our which very vSAN. This time I'm going to tell it is in which very vSAN. Can we change the vSAN number over here? Like as I've defined vSAN 100 for him, obviously when it's going to be mapped to MDS1 or whether it's going to be mapped to MDS2, it will be still called as our what? vSAN 100. So I'm going to have this very thing like if this link goes down, it could map in this very way, still over here. But we can't tell it as in our vSAN 200 because this single port can participate in a single vSAN. Like if you will see from a FEX point of view also, like if I do have FEX, then I do have two parent switches, parent 1, parent 2. If I'm connected and if I'm pointing out to this interface, if it's going to participate in VLAN number 100, so you need to define in P1 as well as on our P2. Can you change the VLAN over there? No, because you're pointing out to the same interfaces. So we can't define that very thing. So I'm going to go to our MDS2. First of all, I'll define the switch name, MDS2. We are going to tell that vSAN database we are going to have, vSAN as 100. We are going to point out vSAN 100 as which interface? Interface FC 1/8. Getting my points on? Yes. And then I'll go to my interface FC 1/8. 1/8. Right on its switch port mode F. Will commit no shutdown. And then on which very interface 1/10, we are going to make it as which port? Mode as E. Commit it as no shutdown. If I move to MDS1, in MDS1 what I need? FC 1/10. Right on switch port mode as E, and we will commit no shutdown. So I'm just looking out to which very portions. I'm looking out to this relative the portions. This is the connection. This could be one of the connection, or it could be in this very way. But ultimately we will go to which very vSAN JBots 100. I can't point out 100 over here. It's not a good networking pattern. I can tell it's going to be 100, but there's going to be a big mismatch. All right, so this is all about the config that I need over here. Obviously, we are going to have E mode. Over here, we are going to have F mode. This is going to be also called as another F mode. So both of the port is going to be defined with F mode. But what I need to define in MDS3, I'm going to define these very port as my NP mode. So let's try to configure it. We'll go to our MDS3. and I'm going to define FC1/1 to 410 or 810. First of all, I'll shut down the ports. Obviously, it's in shutdown mode. I could have actually ignored that very command. We'll write down this FC1/1 to 2, write on 1/8 actually, and then I'm going to define switch port mode as NP mode, and then I'm going to commit what? No shutdown. Now at this very moment, I do have 3 ports that could go as in our uplinks.
It's 1/1 to 2.
Yes. I run switch port mode, NP, and then I'm going to commit it as no shutdown. So I'm going to have around how many ports? 3 ports as in our uplink, which you can verify by writing show NPV external interface uses. Right now it's not telling that there is any kind of external interfaces because I don't have any server interfaces. If I'll talk about status, they are going to be telling about this very stuff, that I do have 3 set of interfaces. Right now they are being filled up. That even though we do have, right now what is being failing because we are not enabled what? They are very clearly telling that NPIV mode is not enabled at the top. So in MDS1, what I need to define, feature, NPIV, and in MDS2 also we will write on feature, NPIV. Now after configuring that very stuff, let's take a look. There's a mismatch in vSAN for its upstream port because what vSAN I have not configured?
100 on 3.
vSAN 100, because he's pointing me to be called into our vSAN 100, but I don't have that very thing in our vSAN database. So I'll go to vSAN database and I'll configure vSAN 100 into it. Alright, now if I'll see show NPV status, sometime you need to flap it 1/2, comma FC1/8, shut it down, then commit, no shutdown. Show NPV status, or maybe it will come back again. It would come back again if I'm going to make my server interfaces one by one, because I am not able to find out any server interfaces. But if we'll take a relative idea regarding over here, there are some sort of behavior that you can see. One of the behavior that is being shown over here is that disruptive load balancing is disabled. It's a by default nature of any of the fiber channel switches. Now, what is the meaning of disruptive load balancing?
During the load balancing.
Yeah, during the load balancing, then what?
Data will loss. Disruptive means data will loss.
The data would be lost, but in what kind of scenarios? Like over here, if it is our MDS3 that is present, okay, I do have 3 upstream interfaces, all right, and let it be for our vSAN 100, I have told you that you are going to go for the load balancing, and by default every switches will do load balancing on a vSAN basis, particularly on our source, destination, and FCID. On 3 pattern basis, they will always try to do the load balancing. Now, in this very condition, if any of the interface goes down, then what do you want to see? Whatever the available port which is there, that will make your load balancing available. Now, for the more clarity, if I'll take a look onto our configuration guides, like if I'll see in MDS 9222i configuration guides, every answer is over here only. We'll go to switch configurations. Over there, you will find out the section of N-Port Virtualization, which will be there. So we will take a look onto it. And over here, if I write on disrupted. Now, what is the meaning of disrupted? It's very clear telling that disruptive load balancer work independent of automatic selection of interfaces and configured map of external interfaces. This feature reinitiate the sub interface to achieve load balancing when feature is enabled whenever a new external interface comes up. To avoid flapping the server interface too oftenly, undesirably, enable this feature once and then disable it whenever the needed load balancing is achieved. If disrupted load balance is not enabled, you need to manually flap the server interface to move some of the load to a new external interface. Now, in one sense, I'm talking about like if you do have FX interface, FX devices, and you do have two uplinks. You do have a server that is present into it, server interface. You might have seen that whenever we have achieved a static kind of pinning, like if this interface has been mapped with it, you will see that all the data would go in this very way. Is it or not? But let it be this interface goes down, you would find out this interface will also go down in this state. But if I would have achieved a port channeling onto the top, then we would have seen that the available port will send the traffic. Now, in those very conditions, if I mention maximum pinning link as 2, usually whenever we have written maximum pinning link as 2, so this one port will map half of the ports of server, and this very port will map half of the server ports. Now, if this port goes down, ultimately you will see that all the server half port will be, it will also going down in the conditions. But now, if I'm going to see that if this interface goes down and this server is going down, but I need to map it to our available port, even though I do have maximum pinning link number 2, what you will be doing? First thing is that we have to create a port channel, but let it be we don't have to go with our port channel. In those cases, we need to change this maximum pinning link back to what? 1. And whenever you mention this very keyword, what you would see? You would see that we again reinitialize the load balancing. We try to see that what are the available ports are there, and then only we will try to map newly the server interfaces. Even even you might have seen that I might have written some command like fetch redistribute. Remember this command? In the privilege mode, I had written this very config in my Nexus classes. And what was the meaning of it? I was telling emphatically that you please go and recalculate the load balancing wherever you can actually map your respective interfaces. So you can do that things by two methods. Either you can change maximum pinning link, or either you can write on fetch redistribute command. But it is always mentioned that you should not go with any kind of static or physical interface thing. You should always go to our port channeling. So relatively, you will find out this very condition is going to be pretty same. It's going to tell that if I do have one external interface, okay, and then I'm going to have our MDS3. I do have my server interface. So when I do have many external interface, so to any of one of the ports, this port is going to be mapped. All right. But if this interface goes down, then what is going to do? Then he's going to do a load balancing, which will be with disruptive in the nature. So for a while, this interface will go down, and he will now reinitialize, and he will try to find out the other set of interfaces. So let's try to do this very stuff, and then we will verify it. Now, why the server interface is not looking like? Because in our database, we have not defined that with our V700, which server interface is going to map with us. So I do have server interface as what? FC1/10. So I'll go to our FC1/10 and then I'm going to commit what? No shutdown. Now if I'll see show our NPV status, what I'm going to see, guys? Number of server interface, I do have how much? 1. And you can see over here, we are waiting for external interfaces. Now, none of the external interfaces is coming right now up. When it's not going to come up, always go to your FC1/1 to 2, 1/8, shutdown, no shutdown.
So we need to reboot after giving feature MV.
No. I think in an MDS one, if I'll see the pattern now, show interface brief. Now it is telling that it is in what condition? Up in condition. If I'll see in MDS 3, let's go to MDS 1. Let me flap it. And so only I tell that sometime whenever you are working with NPV and NPIV, it could be a little bit confusing because every day's devices will behave very differently. Like yesterday I tried with and today when I'm trying with which very vSAN 100. But remember, this MDS 3 is going to by default introduce himself into what very vSAN? vSAN 1. But you do have what? vSAN 100. Now, when you are going to place some new devices like nowadays, you do have FIs. In FIs, you will get the provisioning of defining that in what very vSAN we are working with. Like by default, this very port is working in which very vSAN? vSAN 1. So let's try to take a look onto it. Like if I go to our MDS number 1, or let me start with first of all MDS 3, show vSAN memberships. This 1/1 and 1/2 is participating in which very vSAN? 1. If I go to MDS 1 and if I'll see show floggy database, I'm getting which guy's floggy on 1/1 and 1/2. Or what device? Whether I'm getting floggies for our servers or whether I'm getting the floggies of only of MDS 3. As you can see over here, we are getting the floggies for which very device? Check it out the node name. What is the node name? Is it same or not? And what I've told you that when a switch becomes as a NPV, his node worldwide name will be referred from which very name? As WWN. Is it or not?
Yes.
And when they are going to have same name or such, when they are going to have SWN. When I talk about onto our FC1/1 and FC1/2, now this port does have a major differences over here. Is it or not? Where you can see the differences? Onto this side. And this very port, when I see in a floggy database, should be referred as PWWN, but now in this topology it will be mentioned with what very keyword? FWWN. The fabric worldwide naming. On that very basis only, we will try to figure it out. But if you will take a look on to our MDS 3, how it is introducing himself to our MDS 1, through which very vSAN? He is defining himself as in vSAN 1. But down under, you do have what device?
Server.
And he should be participating in which very vSAN? He should be participating in vSAN number 100. Now, whether we are getting the correlations over there, we are not able to find out the floggies. Because by default, all the devices will run in which very vSAN? vSAN 1. Now, when we will try to work with our FIs, which is also going to give you the similar kind of behaviors, is going to also tell that I'm an NPV-based kind of switches. Over there, you can define particularly that this very port is going to participate in which very vSAN. Okay, so over there you can define vSAN 100. Onto the other port you can define 200. Depending upon what very condition you need. Let me plug off my power cable. Actually, my voice has gone down, guys. I don't know why. When the time comes on Thursday, no, Thursday, Friday, always goes down. Saturday, I'm not able to speak it.
So
Saturday I do have.
Your classes in weekend. Saturday.
Saturday I used to not speak a lot. because the guys which are sitting in the classes, they're already CCI certified, dual CCI certified. One guy is triple CCI certified.
तुमको सर आपका वीडियो दे दिया
I used to share the videos. I should just tell him that how to do the practicals. They need not to be told about the theory. Okay, so now how I'm going to make our MDS1 to know about this very guy as a part of this very guy as a part of BSAN 100. Like what MDS1 is still considering him? Is considering him as a part of BSAN 100. But as MDS1 is going to introduce himself as a part of BSAN 1, he is not able to tell about the server which is a part of which very BSAN 100. So whether if I'm going to change the port as BSAN 100, whether we will see that the server would be mapped with BSAN 100 or whether it's going to get up floggies or not. So I'll go to MDS3 and I'm going to go to our FC1/1 2. I'm going to write down, sorry, not over here, where we will go. BSAN database, BSAN 100, interface FC1/1 to 2. Okay, I'll go to FC1/1 to 2. Why it has gone to error disable state? Because whenever you work with NP mode, whenever you feel any problems are there, you'll automatically convert that port to our error disable state. But this error disable state will be recovered automatically. You need not to recover it, like in most of the Ethernet switches. But if you don't have patience, you can just shut down, no shut it down. If I'll go to show floggy database, now whether we are going to see anything, what we can see over here. Server is being introduced or not. Like in our MDS2, what I did as a major changes. If I'll see show vSAN memberships, now I have put my MDS3. If I'll see show vSAN memberships, what I have put FC1/1 and 200. I have even put them into our vSAN 100. Like entirely, I'm going to give a floggy as a part of vSAN 100. Now in MDS1, I got how many floggies? 3. Now why we got 3? Why we didn't got 4?
It is taking one only.
Because a server will require only one external interface. Like if you will see what ultimately these devices are doing. Ultimately, this MDS3 is just like what kind of device? As like our proxy device, is it or not? What is the meaning of proxy? Usually, in a very simple language, what is the meaning of proxy?
Agent. The land.
Without looking, it's just
Without looking anything, I'll just send you out. And what I require only one interface. So now, when I did a floggy for MDS3, for this port and for this port, we got that 1/1 and 1/2. So I'm talking about his 1/1 and 1/2. He did floggies. And he did floggy for which very device? For our MDS3. But if I did have this interface, it can map itself to 1/1 or it can map to 1/2. So any of the interfaces will be mapped like 1/2, and through this interface only, his floggy was proxy. Like when I have received his information, I just made him to just go through 1/2, and what he has got from his end, even on the interface on the other end, is also 1/2. And so only when I'll see show floggy database, what I'm getting, guys, I'm getting the 1/, sorry, I did got 1/1 only. So our server, I did actually introduce server with the help of which interface? 1/.
so these all /1 and 2 which are coming. They are all from the server only.
Not all from server. 2 are from this one, and this one is of switch of MDS3, and this one is coming from our server.
So that MDS3 also we have made the NPV. MDS3.
Yeah, MDS3 I have made it as NPV,
It's
no?
NPV only.
Yeah.
MDS.
So ultimately what is happening now, this MDS1, how is looking down to that very device, is now looking as, like on 1/1, I do have one device. On 1/2, I do have the another set of device, and I'm referring to which very MDS, MDS3. But I am also getting one another set of device on 1/1, which is my real server. So internally in MDS3, what he's doing, the 1/10, his 1/10 is basically mapped to which interface? 1/1. And for which very vSAN? vSAN 100. But when he's going to map it, when he will also tell that this is my vSAN 100 over here. Now in the fabric interconnect, that is going to matter a lot. Like if I'll see from a topological basis, okay, when I'm going to go into fabric interconnect, you will see that very relation will be more oftenly that would be seen. Like if I'm talking about like topology number 1, if I'm going to have topology number 1, let me actually on the right side. When you talk about topology number 1, if I do have a NPIV switch, okay, I would be connected to maybe vSAN 100. So I'm going where? To my J-Port device, remember? Yes. And I could be even connected to what very device? To our vSAN 200, and that is going to be my J-Port. And let it be, I do have 3 links. Let it be. And this is going to be my NPV switch. Let it be, I do have initiator. I do have 2 set of initiator, and one is running in vSAN 100 and one is running in our which very vSAN 200. Is it or not?
Yes.
Now, if I have to tell about his information to our NPIV switch so that they can go to their relative J-Port devices. So what I'm going to find out that we need to make one particular interface to be part of vSAN 100 and one particular port to be part of which very vSAN? vSAN 200. Then only internally is going to do mapping. Then only is going to do internally the mapping. Now in this condition, NPV switch will introduce himself also to which very guy? NPIV switch, and is going to introduce this server interface also, whatever the device that over there it is connected to. So we will see that onto this very port on 1/1. We are going to find out that we are going to have 2 string of device. Like I'm going to have one another initiator and I'm going to have another set of initiator kind of things. But what this device is doing, is just making just like kind of tunneling kind of interface. He is now going to participate in zoning. Zoning has to be participated by our real initiator, which is present over here. Usually for any kind of redundancies, I think I have to again start my meeting. Sometime whenever you disconnect it, it creates the problem.